All right, hey there, grade 10. Welcome to today's masterclass in music and arts. Look, if you've ever stared at a finished project and thought to yourself, is this actually good or am I just totally biased because I made it? Well, you are in exactly the right place. Today we're figuring out how to take your creative work from a rough, okay-ish draft to a totally polished, professional masterpiece. We're going to peek behind the curtain and see how real industry pros assess and refine their work. Spoiler alert, it is way more than just guessing. It's a highly structured, evidence-based approach. Here's our game plan for today. We'll start by moving beyond personal preference, then break down the GRASP's framework. After that, we'll dive into rubrics and gathering evidence, walk through a 6-step refinement pipeline, and finally, wrap up with balancing your creativity with your audience.
So, quick question for you, and I want you to answer this honestly in your head. Is your very first draft really your final output? And when you tweak a design or change a chord progression, is "I just like it" a good enough reason? Honestly, it's not. Strong creative work doesn't just magically happen. It takes systematic review. Relying on random edits or personal vibes, that just won't cut it in the creative industries. We have to be intentional. Which brings us to Section 1, Beyond Personal Preference.
There is a massive difference between personal preference and authentic assessment. If you change a design just because you feel like it, you're playing a really risky game. You might accidentally delete the exact thing that was working perfectly for your audience. Because, let's be real, not every change is an upgrade. Authentic assessment, on the other hand, is completely goal-driven. It's laser-focused on the audience and backed by objective evidence, meaning every single tweak you make has a clear purpose. Think about it like this. Imagine going to a doctor, and before you even say a word, they just hand you a random bottle of pills. Crazy, right? They need a diagnosis first. Well, as an artist, you're the doctor. You absolutely must diagnose your work using evidence before you prescribe any fixes. You need to know exactly what the problem is, what the criteria are, and what effect you want before you make a single change. Okay, moving on to Section 2, the GRASP's framework. This is your ultimate diagnostic tool right here. Let's break down this acronym because it's a game changer. G is for goal. What's the actual objective of this project? R is your role. Are you acting as a composer, a graphic designer, a director? A is audience. Who is actually going to consume this? S is situation. What's the real-world problem you're trying to solve? P is the product. What exactly are you building? And finally, S is for standards. How are we judging if this thing is actually a success? Together, these give you a realistic context. You're not just making art in a void. You're solving a specific problem for specific people. So, the big takeaway here is that when you filter your work through the GRASPS framework, every single edit you make can be tied directly to a requirement of the task. If your piece is super creative but completely misses the target audience, well, GRASPS makes that communication gap glaringly obvious. It takes the guesswork out and gives your revisions a professional, objective direction. Let's jump into Section 3, Rubrics and Gathering Evidence. Listen, we really need to bust a massive myth right now. A lot of young artists think assessment is just a final grade slapped on a project when it's way too late to fix anything. But the truth? Real assessment is formative. It's a continuous loop. In the real world, this is just how things are done. You assess during early drafts, during rehearsals, during test runs. Catching mistakes early and revising doesn't mean you're a bad artist. It actually proves you know how to manage your workflow before small hiccups turn into unfixable disasters. And how exactly do we manage that loop? With a rubric. But hold on. A rubric is not just a grading sheet. It's a treasure map for refinement. You can't just glance at a rubric, give yourself a 4 out of 5, and move on. You need the receipts. You need evidence. Why is the technical execution at that level? Pinpoint the exact proof, like maybe the way a specific shading tool was used, or a weird jump cut at the 2-minute mark of a video. When you have hard evidence, your feedback becomes an exact roadmap for what needs fixing. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, the 6-step refinement pipeline. I really want you to focus here because this specific sequence is crucial. If you just dive in and start hacking away at your project before assessing it properly, you'll probably ruin the good parts. This 6-step pipeline forces you to put the task and the audience first. Step 1 grounds your mindset. Step 2 makes you experience the whole thing. Step 3 is gathering the data. Step 4 is pattern spotting. Step 5 is choosing what actually matters. And Step 6 is doing the work. Let's look at the early and late steps a bit closer. So the early steps are all about collecting clean data. First, you remind yourself of your GRASP's goal so your head is in the right space. Then, and please hear me on this, you experience the work fully, start to finish, exactly like an audience member would. Literally, sit on your hands if you have to. Do not edit while you're watching or reading it the first time. If you pause 3 seconds in to tweak a color, you completely destroy the overall experience of the piece. Once you've taken the whole thing in, then you score it and write down your hard evidence. Now for the later steps. When you're comparing your own self-assessment with feedback from your peers or your teacher, you don't just blindly do whatever they say. You're looking for patterns. Are 3 different people all confused by the exact same transition? If yes, and it ties back to the rubric, that's a huge priority. You want to tackle the changes that will have the biggest impact on the quality of the work. Once you implement those fixes, you do one final check, just to make sure you didn't accidentally break something else in the process. And finally, Section 5, Balancing Creativity and Audience.
You might be thinking, but wait, if I follow all these rules, won't my art become boring? Absolutely not. Creativity does not need to be erased. It just needs to be aligned with the audience's needs. Using evidence to refine your work doesn't make it generic. It actually protects your strongest ideas. By pinpointing exactly what's confusing people, you can fix those specific gaps while letting your unique, brilliant voice shine through completely untouched.
Let's look at how this actually plays out. Say you've got this wildly creative project, but people just aren't getting it. An unsuccessful fix would be panicking, throwing the whole concept out the window and making something super basic. We don't want that. A successful fix means going back to your grasps and your rubric. Maybe the core concept is genius, but a specific visual cue is just throwing people off. You just tweak that one communication choice. Boom, the audience gets the message, but the soul of your artwork? Still 100% yours. As we wrap things up, I highly recommend taking a quick screenshot of this checklist. Before you turn in your next studio task, you need to be able to say a confident yes to all of these. Does the output actually meet the grasped goal? Are your creative choices a good fit for your audience? Does the technical execution support your idea without distracting from it? And crucially, are all your edits justified by actual rubric evidence? Remember, the expectation isn't just a final score. It's the assessment plus the revised work. You gotta be able to back up your changes. So, I'll leave you with this. How are you going to apply this evidence-based approach to your very next project? It is officially time to stop guessing. We are leaving I just like it this way in the past. Start leaning into the GRASPs framework, hunt for that real rubric evidence, trust the 6-step pipeline, and watch your drafts transform into truly impactful, industry-ready art. I seriously can't wait to see what you all create, and more importantly, how you refine it. See you next time.